It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. And we're in an election year, which can cause people to psych themselves out about their investments. And so I want to talk about how you ignore the noise or how you react to the noise during an election year. And also, I recently saw something that should ease your mind about the future of jobs with all this hyper talk everywhere you turn. AI, 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 AI. And then there are these scare lines repeatedly saying, your job's going to be destroyed. I mean, we're not going to need anybody but machines. Right. Anyway, we're going to talk about that later. So it's something that happens every 4-year presidential election cycle that as the hype builds up and the frenzy on social media that just feeds repeatedly to people that are partisans of either of the major political parties, people start to buy in to the hype that this is the most important election in American history and blah, 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 blah. Okay. Every election is important to participate in, but the reality is there is no Armageddon coming based on whether this party wins or that party wins. And I am one of those people who has such a different perspective because I'm not a loyalist of either of the political parties. And so for me, it's a different kind of feel that I have as an American who very much cares and loves this country, but does not feel like, any fellow, I love my fellow Americans. I don't feel like this person is this or this person's that because of they're with this party or that party. That's not where my head lives. And so I have a completely different perspective. But I recognize at the same time how many people feel that, oh no, everything I have is going to go away because. So that's not my game. And so I'd love for you to tune out the noise and worry much more about how do you handle your money. So we as Americans tend to feel comfortable if we do invest sticking close to home in the United States. And a lot of Americans who have employers that have publicly traded stock tend to ultimately, your potential risk, put a lot of your future in that company's shares, which if you're a longtime listener or viewer, you know that I put the kibosh on that. So where are things now? If you look at the marketplace, overwhelmingly, U.S. markets are very, very, very highly valued. Stock markets go through cycles where they are overly exuberant and then overly pessimistic. And the U.S. economy is doing, I know it's felt hard on individuals because of the inflation stuff, but the U.S. economy has been doing better than most any economy in the world. It's attracted foreign money into our stocks, and of course, Americans tend to stay close to home with their investing. And I do so much reading in the financial press, and it is so clear that there's like almost like just like a head shake going on, that Americans are ignoring the potential opportunity there is to invest overseas. And you look at the world's second largest money manager, Vanguard, and their recommendation right now is that 40% of the money that's in a stock portfolio should be overseas right now. In the bond side of things, almost a third. And this is similar to what a lot of other financial houses are recommending. But their investors don't want to do it. They just don't feel comfortable investing outside the United States. So if you think about this, we're 4% of the world's population. We're low 20s% of the world's economic activity. And even though we have been stronger as an economy over the last few years than pretty much anywhere else, over the long-haul trajectory, there will be greater economic growth in other places in the world because they're coming from a smaller base. They don't have the per capita income that we do in the United States, not close. So I'm a big believer in this country. I love America. I also am very clear that I like to diversify my money and not just be with my investments in the good old USA. So if you read in a financial newsletter or your financial planner or whatever says, we really should diversify more where your money is. I know the natural reflex of action. Reflex? Is that the right word? Anyway, is that you say, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Hear them out. Hear them out. And if you still want to just stay with your money here, do it. Now, I said things go through cycles, and the U.S. market is priced really high versus company earnings, which means that things are, by historical measures, overvalued. Does that mean I'm selling out the lion's share of my money that's in U.S.-based stuff? No, because you can't figure out when markets turn up or down. I play the long game, and I'm totally into dollar cost averaging, which is where I continually contribute on a regular schedule, month after month, year after year, in my widely diversified portfolio. Because that way, you're not reacting emotionally, you're acting methodically, which is key to long-term wealth and financial security.
Okay, we'll go to questions. This one came in from Kevin in California. Clark, I'll be inheriting a large sum of money next year, $900,000.
Wow, and I'm sorry about the loss of a loved one that's led to this, Kevin.
Mm-hmm. I'm 28 and have $50,000 in savings and nothing invested. I make $100,000 a year. Should I buy a house in all cash for around $600,000 and invest the rest, or should I dollar cost average the lump sum into the market and wait? I'm single with no kids and never dreamed of having this type of money, and I don't want to do anything foolish. Thank you for the help.
So, Kevin, just for people who live in the rest of the country, $600,000, if you're in coastal California, buys you a fairly modest home, where in much of the rest of the country, $600,000 would likely buy you a very, very, very nice home.
I feel like in coastal California, that'll buy you like a piece of a driveway. It's so crazy.
In some zip codes, it would buy you just a piece of a driveway. It is true. So just so people who are listening or watching understand, it's not being foolish or just reactive that you're having this money coming in. The advantage, if you plan on staying in the area you are in California long term, is you're locking in your housing costs, and you still have a third of the money left over that I'd want you to steadily invest. Dollar cost averaging split out a number of ways that it gets too involved for me to talk about. But I've got no problem with you taking 2/3 of this found wealth and putting it into a home. If we were talking a more affordable market in the United States, I would want you to buy a home at a lower cost, have more money for investment purposes, but this gives you a place to live, and that's great. As far as when somebody has an unaccustomed, unexpected sum of money, I want you to sit down and talk with a financial planner who you're paying only for advice. And we have a guide on Clark.com how to ferret that out and talk to someone. Fiduciary, right. And there are organizations that you can find a trustworthy person, and then you want to be methodical talking to them, thinking it through and proceeding. And they may look at it and say, you know, I understand the idea of buying a house. This is why I wouldn't buy one right now, or this is how much money would be okay to devote to it, or whatever it is. But there's real advantage to you paying cash instead of taking out any mortgage right now with where interest rates are. So best to you, and again, I'm sorry about the loss of a loved one.
Jack in Utah says, my wife and I both have Kohl's cards. My wife has been selected to have her card replaced with a new Kohl's Visa Rewards card from Capital One. We don't want what used to be a perfectly working department store credit card to be force-fed a new Visa not of our choosing. What is our recourse? I don't want to be next in this selected line.
So, Jack, federal regulators do not treat the recharacterization of what's known as a monoline card, a store-only card, to a general credit card, with the Visa or MasterCard logo or whatever on it, as a change in credit or the receipt of unsolicited credit, which is illegal. You can't just have, in the old days, believe it or not, banks would just send you a card you didn't ask for, and you had to go through a complicated process to reject it. In this case, Kohl's partner, Capital One, is allowed to reissue the card without you even wanting it with the Visa logo. Here's the weird thing, Jack. It's to your advantage, to your wife's advantage. Here's why. A store card is considered in the credit scoring models to be junk credit. Any store-only card is junk in their system. There's a clear record that people who use store-only cards are much more likely to default on debt than people who use general credit cards. And so it is an advantage in the scoring model if your wife has the Kohl's Visa card over you with the regular Kohl's card. As to having a store card at all, I'm not a fan of store cards. You must get some kind of really nice discount at Kohl's using their store-only card. And it's like Amazon has, for people that are big Amazon shoppers, is it 5% off on Amazon? But that's not an Amazon-only card. That's a Visa or MasterCard?
I don't have it. But
okay.
I probably should.
As much as you shop from
I have
Amazon,
the Target card.
because you have that reserved space at your house for the Amazon truck. Anyway, this is something you don't like, and the fact that they didn't give your wife a choice and said she was selected, I understand you don't like it. It's actually not a bad thing.
Okay, and I hope I'm saying this name correctly. Monts in Washington says, my boyfriend and I started listening to your podcast whenever we're on the road. I wanted to ask if you've heard of the apps where you scan your receipts to earn points that eventually turn into gift cards of your choice. And then she gives an example. I want to redeem some of my points for an Amazon gift card, but the apps require your email, and you can get points for linking all other accounts, like your Target account, Walmart account, etc. Would you say that it's safe to do this, or should I stop using the apps?
It's absolutely safe to do this. I've not heard of any problems anyone's had.
We haven't heard of the one you mentioned, though. We have not reviewed that.
And a lot of these apps, truthfully, aren't worth your time. The amount of effort for the amount of money you get from them isn't really worth it. We have 2 lengthy reviews of different ones of these, and on Clark.com, check them out in addition or instead of this one that you are interested in. And if you don't mind doing so, I'm not aware of any reason you can't double or triple dip on these. Is
Yeah,
there?
I guess. I don't know. I've never used them. But yeah, Dallas on our team reviewed Receipt Hog and Receipt Pal, but also there's a chart. I forget which of those articles. There's a chart of other ones as well compared to it. So see what she had to say, because she actually has used them.
But in our experience over the years, these have had marginal benefit, not life-changing kind of benefit. But today, every dollar does count,
sure.
right? Coming up ahead, the job market is such in the news right now for several reasons. Top of the list is the whole hype about AI, but also that there's been a shift in the marketplace. There aren't as many job openings as there have been over the last several years as a result of the Federal Reserve shoving interest rates so high. It has had the intended effect from the Federal Reserve of slowing down the job market. And so people are more angsty and anxious, as you should be, as the number of layoffs increase. I want to talk about the job market going forward. So this is an obsession of mine, is you having more control over what happens in your work life and not being a spectator in what happens in it. And you'll hear me in all different ways talk about the job market. And right now is especially an inflection point because there's extra insecurity being spread with all the things being reported and posted that are creating this. If we didn't already have enough concern about our wallets and our lives financially, now saying that, well, AI is going to kill this and kill that and kill the other, and there's not going to be any jobs for any of us. Think they're going to be able to do this, that, they blah, blah, blah. So throughout history going back roughly 200 years, there's been this fear since the start of the industrial age, that every new improvement, they didn't call it technology then, but every new breakthrough in efficiency or ways of doing things was going to lead to mass unemployment and starvation. And we're in that cycle again with the fear of the unknown. And AI will change the nature of work like so many other things have. As to the hype, the people hyping it, it's one of those things that the predictions about what something new is going to do are always wildly off base. So know that change is ever present in the job market. It was funny, there was an article, it took a whole different perspective than what I always talk about, and it was one from Fast Company about the fact that the jobs of 1940 will not exist in 2040. The whole job market will have turned over pretty much. And it's funny because actually the stat that I look at is one from a very in-depth Canadian study that I've quoted for a good number of years, that generally 70% of jobs that exist today don't exist in their current form 20 years forward. So there still may be titles like that, but the way the job works will be different, even if that job still exists. That change is always present in the job market. And I've given the example before of my son, who's training to be a professional pilot and wants to fly for one of the airlines or charter company or, freight haul or whatever. That's how he wants to earn his living. But he made a choice to not go flight school only and to go to a traditional college and study something else and carry a double burden in school, because who knows what's going to happen with how we transport over a lifetime. He's so young. We're looking at a nearly 50-year career for him. And the chance that 50 years from now, we'll be getting around the way we get around today, I mean, the chances of that are close to zero. So he's studying something else, and he, thank goodness, it has a lot of curiosity. He'll be a lifelong learner, and he'll continually adapt. That's one part of his personality that dovetails with mine, and that's really good for him. But a lot of us, that's not natural. You know, we are not somebody who's like, hey, I wonder what's around that corner. Wonder what might be over there. We're not necessarily looking for the next potential opportunity, the next thing that would excite us or that we would enjoy doing. And I'll tell you, in the velocity of change in the job market, the more you can overcome maybe your natural inertia and think about where things are going instead of where they are, the less you're a sitting duck and the more opportunity there is for you. And it's not just about, nobody should go and, like Christa's son is a computer-oriented kid.
Mm-hmm.
If I tried to do that, oh man, I mean, I would face plant. I'd be useless. For him, that's exactly a great place for him to start his life. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying you, just because, you know, I'll talk about the greatest jobs over the next 10 years or blah, 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 blah. If none of those interest you, that doesn't mean you pursue that, but you keep your eyes open for opportunity and what you would enjoy. And I mentioned the other day, if your employer offers free opportunity for training or additional education, grab it.
All right, we'll go to questions. Laura in Wisconsin says, last year I needed to see a specialist at a medical facility I've never been to. I was asked all my personal information. I gave them what they needed, but I got caught up in the moment and gave them my social security number. Ugh. I later realized it and called back. I asked for my social security number to be removed, but the representative told me it was not something she could do. It was a mistake on my part, but what can I do to rectify it?
All right, so Laura, you are worried about the right thing, but don't freak out so much.
Well, your giant sigh when I asked the question probably didn't help her.
So if you've not done so, most important thing to do if your social security number is the hands of any doctor's office, lab, hospital, medical facility of any kind, they are the weakest link in identity theft in the United States. They may be really good at practicing medicine. They are terrible at data security. So freeze your credit. And you know the answer to everything, you know, there's going to be storm front coming in. Freeze your credit. My auto insurance went up. Freeze your credit. No, I mean, it's just, it is Clark 101 that you freeze your credit. But because this has happened, that you now know they've got your social, you definitely want to freeze your credit, because it's only a matter of when, not if, there will be a data breach letter coming in your mailbox.
That's not true. She did this one time.
No, not talking about this. I mean, all of us in our lives.
All of us, okay.
There were a billion data breach. There are only 350 million Americans, and there were supposedly a billion of us hit with data breaches in the first 6 months of this year from various organizations, various big and small and in between. So know that criminals are trading in our personal information. And this is just, every time you give that social security number, you create one more vulnerability. But this is not the end of your life as you know it, because this medical center has it and they won't give it back, won't delete it.
I don't know why. I just feel for Laura. She sounds like she's really, really upset about it.
Don't be so upset, Laura. Don't be so upset.
Okay. Peter in Pennsylvania says, I wanted to get your thoughts on an area surrounding merchants and businesses increasingly passing along credit card fees to customers. For reference, I certainly understand the burden that businesses are under with these costs from the banks, especially small businesses. That said, do you ever see a point where passing along these fees may be have a net negative impact on consumer spending and in turn a business's sales, I think we can all agree that consumers historically spend more when they pull out the plastic. With this in mind, if a consumer is pushed more toward cash to avoid fees and the more immediate realization of their spending, could we reach a point when people actually spend less and the business feels the impact?
So that's a very, very interesting perspective, because I know that when people who've had trouble with credit cards and running up debt switch to doing all their walking around with cash, their spending goes way, way down. Merchants are in a real bind because the merchant processing fees in the United States are many, many times higher than any other country on earth, because the Visa and MasterCard cartel politically have been so powerful and have been able to get the rules and laws in place to allow them to collude and charge these giant fees to merchants. So merchants now have, in many cases, restaurants and businesses of all kinds, many have their second highest expense now, credit card processing fees. So unbundling and saying, you pay this way, you do this, you pay this way, you pay that, and all that, I think is a reasonable decision of businesses to do. And I don't resent it. And so I make a decision, okay, so they're charging 2% more. I got this reward on this card. Okay, it'll be a net even for me. I can do it. Or I can't overcome that charge, so I pay a different way. I pay with cash, or I tap to pay, or whatever, to get the lower fee. So if you owned a business, you'd get it. But also your point is valid. If everybody suddenly started paying with cash, a lot of businesses would see their revenue decline a whole lot.
Martin in Washington says, I always hear Clark bragging about how long his razors last. He said his secret is to just dry them off. My question is, how do you dry them off? Do you use a towel, a hairdryer? Please, Clark, tell us the details. And Martin's not the only one who wrote in with this question.
So, Martin, do I look, those of you who watch the YouTube show, do I look, let me take the head.
No, don't, because nobody could hear you.
Oh, I just wanted the
okay.
YouTube viewers to be able to see if I look, how cleanly shaved do I look?
You're clean shaven.
Okay. So what I do is what several engineers have said, no, Clark, you're completely wrong. Don't be lazy. Don't do it this way. All I do is towel dry my razor, and you do not leave it in the shower. If you shave in the shower, you don't leave it in there, because razors deteriorate from moisture, not from use for shaving. So the longest I made it with a razor was 14 months, because I got challenged by a listener who'd made it a year. And it was a really bad idea, because I was really starting to nick and I wasn't getting close shave, but I just wanted to do that. So I'm not doing it the right way, but we've had a number of engineers say, well, they blow dry it, or they put it in, there was one where somebody was putting it, was it alcohol or something? An engineer said there was something like that. So,
but you don't use it every day, right? Like you use an electric.
Yeah. So that's the change that I've made in my life. If I'm not going to be on camera on a day, I use an electric razor. Electric razor doesn't get close enough, so I have to use a traditional razor on a day that I'm on camera. And so the razor lasts ultra long now. I don't even know how long I've been using this one I'm using right now. Because once I set the 14 months, I was like, yeah. I knew I could make one last a really long time. So, and know the pink tax. Do not fall for the Gillette thing where they charge you 2 or 3 times the cost for the same razor in a woman's color versus a men's color. Do you use one of those pink ones?
Yep. I use the Venus. I get it at Costco because it has like...
Yeah, it's still a fortune.
But it's got the built-in shaving cream stuff, like the gel on it, and I really like that.
Yeah, and how much is it?
I don't know.
Per blade?
I don't know. I
think
do
it's
make them last a
$3
long
a
time.
blade?
I do dry mine off, and they last forever. But yeah,
Okay. All right.
Sorry, Clark.
You don't leave it in the shower, do you?
I do. It's got a holder.
Oh, you're driving me crazy.
Well, we can't all be you.
Nobody should be me.
I know. I failed again.
No.
It's only been how many years?
20, let's see, 27?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So my wife is continually asked, how do you live with that man? And Lane does her own thing, and I do my own thing. We're the MasterCard circles. You know how the MasterCard logo crosses? We have the parts we meet, and then the parts we each do our own thing. And that's how we handle it. Everything in life is a negotiation, right? Mm-hmm. So have an absolutely wonderful day. Remember what we're about is you being empowered with knowledge. That's why we put out our daily newsletters, Clark.com and ClarkDeals.com. The subscription price is crazy high. It's priceless. It's free. So go to Clark.com/newsletters to sign up for our newsletters if you wish. And know that this is about you learning ways to save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. See you tomorrow.